Okay, we're ready now. Okay, tell us who you are.
I'm Frieda Farinelli. I'm Frieda Pantuso Watson Farinelli.
Okay, and where were you born?
I was born in Mount Vernon, New York, March the 1st, 1919, and I just celebrated my 91st birthday.
Okay.
I believe I'm one of the oldest Pantusos here in the East. Now, in Pennsylvania, there may be a few more that are older than I, but I can't tell you who they are, unless there's somebody in Uncle Al's family.
Okay, so now, who's your father?
My father is Joe Pantuso. He was a baby. Came here in 1911. No, he came in 1903. He was born in 1890. He was born in 1891, and he was 11 years old. So that was 19, 13, 19.
No, he was born 1891. He was born.
Yeah, he was born 1891.
Or it would have been 1902.
Yeah, 1902 exactly.
Okay.
He came in 1902 to America.
And he was what, 11?
And when he came, Aunt Frieda came with him.
That was Fortunata.
That's the lady I'm named after, Fortunata,
yeah.
Right.
And Grandpa's name in Italian was Giuseppe.
Your grandpa's name is Giuseppe. Yes.
Right. And then
they came from Italy, and they went to the lumber camp in Pennsylvania because Grandma Pantuso's brother had a lumber camp there, and that's where they came. Uncle Al had already come and notified them and had sent them the money to come to America years before that, but that's another story.
Al was Alessio, right?
That's right.
Right. And then, and then your relatives that lived in Mount Vernon were who?
The relatives that lived in Mount Vernon were all the same family, the Pantuso family. The Pantuso family all settled in Lewis Run, Pennsylvania. But Aunt Caroline was in Mount Vernon, New York. And Uncle Biagio, he lived on the 6th Avenue down the street where we lived, and we lived on 6th Avenue. Originally, I was born on Cindy Avenue in one of those apartments. But we used to go down the street to Uncle Biagio and somebody else's family, and we used to go there on Sunday for hot chocolate. And we were a very close family. Still are, really.
And then, so what? You had your aunts and your Uncle Biagio, your Uncle Bill. They lived in Mount Vernon, right?
Right. And then they moved from 6th Avenue. They moved to 9th Avenue, and then from 9th Avenue moved to 8th Avenue. And I think the family still is there on 8th Avenue. I'm sure Victoria must be still there.
Now what? And then you had other family that lived in Mount Vernon too, right? You had aunts that lived there.
My aunt Caroline was a Pantuso. Her name was Granada, and she owned the house we lived in.
Oh.
She was the oldest. She was the oldest one.
And then you lived. And then you went. Well, how old were you when you first went to Lewis Run to visit there?
Oh, we went to Lewis Run lots of times. When we were little kids, 2 years old and all, we used to go to Pennsylvania. But we went to Pennsylvania as a family when Aunt Maria was a baby, before Aunt Dolores was born. We went one Christmas. Aunt Maria was a baby, and just think Aunt Maria's already gone now. That was more than 88 years ago. I don't know. I can't tell you exactly when it was, but it was sometime in the 20s, because Aunt Maria was born in 1923, and she couldn't have been any more than a year old. Must have been about 1924 was the first time.
Didn't Aunt Maria actually live in Lewis Run for a while?
Aunt Maria went when she was a young girl. She went to Lewis Run to live because my father felt that the people in Lewis Run were healthier than we were, but that's not necessarily true because he thought so. And she went there really for her health. She had I believe she had a murmur in her heart when she was real young, and I think my father and mother were a little bit overprotective of her. But it wasn't a happy situation for her, nevertheless. But we missed her terribly when she was gone. She went there with curls and came back with braids. But she got to live with a family with boys, all her cousins.
Who did she live with?
Huh?
Who did she live with?
Uncle John. Uncle John, and all he had was with the boys, and of course he had Josephine, one girl. But she got a chance to live with boys, you know. We never got a chance to do that.
And then how long did she live there?
I believe she was there almost 2 years.
Really? Now your family that moved to Bradford, one of your uncles never came to America, right?
That's right. My father's oldest brother, whose name was Frank, he never did come to Italy, and the only person in his family that came to America, he never did come to America. The only one who ever did come to America was his son Frank. And Frank was only a few years younger than my father.
The one that stayed in Italy, his name was Frank?
Yeah, he was Frank.
Oh, and his son was also Frank?
And the son was Frank, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Because my father's name, I believe, was Frank.
Oh. Okay, so...
Frank was a family name, Frank Pantuso.
Oh. So he never came, but his son came?
Frank did, yeah.
And
he came to Mount Vernon. That's how we got to see him. He came to Mount Vernon visiting my father. And when we went to Pennsylvania, we went to Bradford to visit his family. He's married to a lady called Julia, and they had a little girl. I believe her name was Anne Marie. Yeah.
And then, and they lived in Bradford, but they didn't live in Lewis Run. They lived in Bradford.
They lived in Bradford, right.
And he was...
Of course, Lewis Run is not Lewis Run anymore. Lewis Run is Bradford now.
But, okay, he was, so he was a son of your uncle that stayed in Italy.
Right.
And he was, how old was he? Well, he was as old as your dad.
He was a few years younger than my father.
Right, because your father was the baby of the family, right?
Right. Now,